everybody, welcome to the TPN podcast. Now today we got a special edition of the show for you, and it's of course not long till election now. 4 days until we find out who will be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and I'm joined by my brilliant host Tommy Bowyer. Tommy, hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I love being on the show.
So Tommy, what is the big event that's happening this week?
Well, the big event is, of course, on Thursday, 12th of December. The bins go out. No.
Hopefully the bins will be out.
No,
It's
no.
Christmas.
Of course, it's the general election. It's the first December general election in
100 years.
in decades.
100 years.
And I don't think there has been a general election this important. Probably since, well, I'd say at least the 1997 general election, maybe even further back than that. This is a very important general election because it is about the future of our nation. And of course, all the party leaders think that they're the ones who should be leading or playing a part in running the country. So it's going to be a very interesting week. By Friday, who knows? We might not even know what government is going to be formed.
Well, that is true. Of course, the polls, everyone's saying the largest party is, of course, will be the Conservatives. Like, unless we're going to be somehow shocked, the largest party should be the Conservatives. If the polls are all right, polls are predicting Conservatives are going to win a majority. That remains to be seen, but it's clear to me that they're most likely going to be the largest party, regardless.
Yes, it looks that way. However, you never know. You never know. I think it's more the case of will the Conservatives form a majority or a hung parliament? And of course, if a hung parliament is drawn, the Conservatives don't have a lot of support with other parties. So then you could see Labour playing an important role in a hung parliament. You really don't know. I think there's so much division. No one knows what's going to happen. This is going to be a very suspenseful general election.
Yes, it's certainly going to be an interesting election. I think it's an important election, and it's about time. You go with the good old saying of get Brexit done, which is the main thing regarding this election. One of the biggest issues of this decade needs to be done. It needs to be sorted. We need to move on. Labour, Labour, we're not going to be in that position. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, let's be frank. I can't remember what we talked about before the Brexit referendum in 2016. If ever anything's going to go down in history as just exploding politics, as it will be the Brexit referendum. I mean, all the major political parties have been changed by Brexit. For instance, the Lib Dems have become the very strong, some people are even saying single issue party now, which is just Remain. The Conservatives have become the party of Brexit. It took them a little longer, however, under Boris Johnson's lead, they have become the natural party of Brexit. Labour have had so many internal divisions because of Brexit. I mean, in 2016, there was a Labour leadership crisis, which was brought on because of Brexit, because of the Brexit vote. Now, honestly, this general election, many people are going to say that this isn't going to fix where we are. This isn't going to fix Brexit. And yes, it's not going to. Brexit won't be over on the 12th of December.
No.
But this will put a firm idea of where the country's going and whether we're going to be talking about Brexit in years to come, or we're going to have a stable 5-year government running from 2019 to 2024, in which Brexit will all be sorted and we can go back like we were in the 2015 general election, talking about other issues which really matter to this country.
Yeah.
I'm sick of hearing about Brexit. I'm sure you are as well. And we just need to, as Boris Johnson, and it sounds cliche, we need to get it done. once we've got it done, we can focus on other things which are important to us as well.
Yeah, Boris Johnson, like, people, I know Labour's going to criticise his deal, but his deal, well, it might not be the Brexit a lot of some people wanted, especially more of Nigel Farage's side, but sometimes, like, you have to admit, it is a little bit of a compromise initially. Like, some people wanted what they call a clean break Brexit, which was a no deal Brexit, going under WTO rules. That's not going to happen. They've put it into law, and Boris Johnson's got a deal he believes in. It may not be the best deal in the world, but he's negotiated it. So we got the transition period, and after that 2 years, we can be free from the EU entirely. Unlike before, where we were trapped in to the EU for an indefinite amount of time by the backstop and other arrangements that was in the initial deal that they negotiated. This gives us the ability to break free technically at any time, even though I'm sure Boris wants to make sure that we're trading fine, not just say bollocks to you lot, we're going. He wants to make sure in that time that we are still good trading partners, and he doesn't, and basically what this does will get rid of the uncertainty. I know Brexit did create uncertainty because no one knows exactly how they were going to prepare for that, but with this deal, businesses have the good chance to prepare for leaving the EU. With not too much changed in the initial time when we leave the EU. We got the transition period, you got to sort of trade out in that one, but it means we're going to leave the EU and not being governed by the EU anymore.
Yes, I think I think you make a really good point there. The problem is Boris Johnson's Brexit deal may not be perfect. However, it's won over the ERG, which the ERG are like the very right wing Brexit, and the ERG said during Theresa May's term that they would only support no deal Brexit deal. At one stage, they were only supporting no deal. Boris Johnson has, and that might be because Jacob Rees-Mogg is now in the cabinet. He's won over the ERG. The only people who he has not won over are politicians like David Gauke, Kenneth Clarke.
It was the 10 of them, the 10 that initially broke off. Have you seen Boris Johnson since, out of the 20 initial rebels, Boris Johnson has 21. Boris Johnson has let half of them back.
Yeah,
it's just the
he
10.
He has let half of them back. It is ones who really criticise. Kenneth Clarke, in my personal opinion, hasn't been a conservative for the last 5 years. He actually voted against Article 50, one of the few MPs to vote against Article 50. So you can see why Kenneth Clarke has been kicked out of the Conservative Party. However, Boris has really united a party behind him, and I really hope he gains a majority. In my personal opinion, I really dislike the DUP. I consider them far too right-wing, especially on social issues. They are far too right-wing for my liking. And plus, their policy on Brexit is really stupid. They want to leave, but they don't understand that there will need to be a few custom checks in Northern Ireland, because Northern Ireland is attached to Ireland, which is a member state of the EU. And the DUP, for some stupid reason, think that a magical solution is going to be met. So I really hope Boris gets a majority so we can be free of the clutches of not only the EU, however, also the DUP, because it's not fair that those 10 DUP MPs had so much influence over the last Conservative government.
Yeah. Essentially, what needs to happen is, of course, you can have your political views on who you want in charge, but I think the best way forward for this country is, of course, Boris Johnson, the Conservative Party. Now, people are saying, all the Conservatives and all that, they brought austerity to this country, and to that I say, and why do you think that was? Why do you think they couldn't put money into public services when they got into office? Why? Because the treasury was empty, bankrupt.
Yes.
Anyway, how could they increase funding or maintain the funding when there was nothing to fund it in? They had to take the steps to reduce the economy to let it recover. And now, for better or worse, however you think of austerity, it did make cuts. But I generally believe Boris Johnson when he says austerity is over. Boris is probably the most liberal or toward more centre Prime Minister in ages. And when he says austerity's over and he's really going to ramp up um, ramp up the funding. I generally
Yeah,
believe him in doing that.
yeah. I think personally, I think I'm like, I think me and you are quite alike. We're quite on social issues. I consider myself pretty centrist. I'm pretty centrist on social issues. It's foreign affairs and economics which make me more right wing because I lean further to the right on those issues. I'm very England. Well, okay, sorry, not England, Britain first. Personally speaking, I am an England first
Oh my
man.
god,
I
English
believe in
Democrats.
England before anything else.
Or
But
watch out,
on
Tommy
all this,
Robson's coming after you.
Boris Johnson is very liberal. He's a very liberal conservative. And personally, I agree with him on loads of his social issues. Anyway, I think we better bring out our special guest before
Yes.
he grows too impatient.
I think what we need to do first is send out a link to the chums. They're going to want to watch this, I think. Um, oh crap, that's the preview screen. Tommy, can you send out a link to the live stream into?
If you send it to me, then I should
No,
be able
I can't.
to.
I can't find the link. The YouTube dashboard is absolutely horrible.
YouTube has very much changed recently in the last couple of.
I hate this new. I hate the new dashboard.
Anyway, we're looking.
How do you share? Oh, share. There we go. I got the link. Can you send a message out saying we're getting Jordan on?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you call a cock up live on a podcast.
Not as big as cock up as Jeremy Corbyn's going to make if he gets hold of the economy, though. But there we are. Right, send out a message.
Here we are.
Right, how do we add him in? Right, ladies and gentlemen, our Northwest Norfolk local representative, the right-hand man of our candidate, which ain't saying too much, but there we are, Jordan Stokes. How do we add him in? Can we drag him? It's not like Skype. How do we do it?
Oh, there's add friends to DM. I think you have to click on.
How do you do it? Add note.
Oh, I found him. Look.
No, we got you create that group chat. We might have to recall quickly. Tommy, can you join the new call that I'm gonna make quickly?
Yes, of course, man.
It's gonna be with Jordan. Here we go. Right, make sure your camera's on. Ah, look at that freeway. Ah, look at that. Oh, look at that. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Here we have. I can't remember his actual role. I may have forgotten. Apologies to you, Jordan. What is your role in the Northwest Norfolk Labour Party again, Jordan?
Joint Youth Officer.
The youth officer. That's the one. Weren't you originally a diversity officer? That was where I was getting mixed up.
No, I've not been that yet.
Ah, not that. Ah, okay, not yet.
Oh, right, okay.
So, Tommy,
Right.
I think you are the one with the brilliant ideas. So, Tommy, I'm gonna be your, I don't know, your host, and Tommy, you're going to be the interviewer. So I'm going to be more like the mediator between you and Tommy. Tommy's going to try and be professional, aren't you? Otherwise, you're fired.
I'm always professional with Jordan. I'm sure as he knows. We've had some pretty good discussions.
You've had some disagreements in the past.
Yeah, we've had a few. I think a few disagreements. Jordan would agree with me there.
Well, no, we haven't.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
So Tommy, you want to take it away?
well, I think one of the main questions we're looking at is do you honestly think that Labour are going to be the largest party in Parliament at the end of this general election?
There's honestly a very good chance that we will be, and even if we're not, there's a good chance that we'll be able to get a coalition in to keep the Tories out.
Right. You say, because obviously you're talking about in the event of a hung Parliament. Of course, if the Conservatives and Labour both don't get the needed seats to form a majority, even if Labour are the second largest party in Parliament, let's say they don't become the biggest party in Parliament, do you think it's right that they should form a coalition, even though they're not the largest party in the House of Commons?
Let
Ooh,
Sorry, something
sorry,
came
Jordan.
from my phone. Distracted me
yeah, it's
2
just cut out
seconds.
there.
Let's be honest. The last 9 years under the Conservatives hasn't worked, so let's give someone else a chance.
I understand your argument there, and of course, yes, a Conservative government has been in power for the next 9 years. However, I would stress that 5 of those years was a coalition between Conservatives and Liberal Democrats. 3 of those years was with Theresa May. Boris Johnson might be a Conservative, however, if you look at the level of years he has actually been a minister in this 9-year Conservative government, he was only in it for just under 2 years as Foreign Secretary. So when you say 9 years of Conservative government doesn't work, would you agree that Boris Johnson doesn't necessarily represent the last 9 years of Conservative government?
To be perfectly honest with you, Tommy, and I've actually heard this from quite a few Conservative people, members and supporters themselves, they've gone too far to the right, and over the last 9 years, they've got further and further to the right.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think Boris Johnson is just proving that, as it seems to have gone. Obviously, David Cameron was pretty centre right. Theresa May was a bit more to the right, whilst Boris Johnson is getting to the point where he's getting supported by the likes of Tommy Robinson, and he's
Yes,
getting backing from the far right.
yes, you say he's supported by the far right. However, if you look at the Conservative Manifesto, the 2019 one, and compare that to the two previously, spending's increasing in the Conservative Manifesto. They're promising more money into public services. Does this
They
seem
promised.
like
They
policy
promised
for the
this
far right
before.
to you?
They promised this before.
Yes, I understand that you're saying they promised this before. However, I can't remember the Conservatives promising that austerity would be ending. Boris Johnson has said that due to the economy being in much better shape since they took over from the last Labour government, they have decided to start ending austerity measures and are starting to pump money into public services again. So, once again, I must ask, how is that moving further to the right? Honestly, that seems like it's moving more centre.
It's not necessarily the policies, but it's the politicians of the party down at the top seem to be more and more to the right.
Well, yes, I do understand.
If we just bear with me 2 seconds, if we just look at comments from the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg or Boris Johnson himself, there are some pretty extreme comments out there now.
Yeah, I do understand that. Of course, there are some members in the cabinet who are more right wing than there has been previously. For instance, Jacob Rees-Mogg. However, Mogg is the leader of the House of Commons. He's not really involved in work with the Home Office or the Foreign Office. His main job is to make sure that Parliament works and cooperates with the government successfully. And in terms of other members, you say some such as Michael Gove, Sajid Javid. I would not necessarily say Sajid Javid is associated with the far right. So if you actually look at the Conservative ministers, a lot of them have records, which does not necessarily mean that they're going further right. If anything, he's got a nice balanced cabinet at the moment.
As I was saying, it's certain ones, it's not all of them for definite, but it does seem that their leadership keeps moving further to the.
Well, yes, on some issues, I have to admit, he is taking, for instance, in instances like immigration, he wants to introduce a points-based system. I think it's about time to introduce a points-based system, if you ask me. He wants to increase the numbers of police on the street. And for instance, when there was that terrorist attack, he said he would lock that terrorist up under lock and key, which actually, if you look at the public reactions to that, these have had significant positive approval ratings. A lot of people support his stances on terrorism, an increase in police numbers. So you're saying it's more far right, however, he's protecting us.
Tommy, hold on 2 seconds, please. You say about increasing police numbers. They've already cut 20,000, so they're going to give us an increase of 1,000. And even then, because of so many retiring, it won't actually be an increase.
I assume you're talking about under Theresa May, they cut police numbers down.
Under the initial
Under the Conservatives
coalition.
in general since 2010, it won't be, in real terms, it won't be an increase. They're just giving back what they've already taken away.
Yes, but we're not talking about what the Conservatives did when they were elected in 2010. We're talking about what Boris Johnson is promising at this general election. Boris Johnson has admitted that there have been mistakes. I mean, he wouldn't say that there's going to be increasing in police numbers. He's saying that it is wrong to cut police numbers. He says he will increase them by training up more police officers. So when you say, yes, the Conservatives did cut police numbers under David Cameron and Theresa May, they are not the Prime Minister at the moment. They are no longer in government, and the majority of their cabinet ministers are no longer in government. Boris Johnson is a new Prime Minister with a fresh-faced team, and so you're saying that we should follow what they did when they were elected, even though it's a brand new team and they're promising a whole host of different promises.
We have to look at their general record partially whilst trying to keep it balanced. But unfortunately, it has been proven time and time again that every time they get in, despite promising to spend more, they cut more.
Well, shouldn't we look at Labour's record last time they were in power, with a lot of the financial problems which occurred during the last Labour government?
That was a global recession.
Yes, a global recession. However, many people would state that selling off the gold reserves and a host of things Gordon Brown didn't necessarily help Britain recover from the global recession.
Yeah, a lot of current Labour members aren't exactly fans of Gordon Brown, and are definitely not fans of Tony Blair. It is a completely different party who it was then.
Exactly.
Yes, but then why are you saying that the Conservative... You're not... When I said Boris Johnson is a fresh take on the Conservative government, which has been in 9 years, and if you're saying that we need to monitor on the Conservative Party's record in government, we should be looking at Labour's record in government as well. And if you're talking about the ideology that Corbyn is using, then maybe we should go back to what Corbyn's ideology is back in the 70s, when the last Labour government were in under Harold Wilson and James Callaghan. And that got so bad that Britain had to get an IMF loan in order to cover their debts. So you're saying look at the past records.
We can keep going back and back, but there's only so far we can go back. Because look at Labour post-World War II when they rebuilt Britain.
Yes, I'm not saying...
With a lot of similar policies to what Corbyn wants to bring in now.
Yes, I'm not saying that in the 1940s, yes, but this isn't after World War II. The 1945 to 1951 Labour government is probably one of the best governments we ever had. Not going to lie, I think it was a really strong government. They did some really good things. However, they were all cost effective. Now, the difference is Jeremy Corbyn's plans have already been called out for not being cost effective. He would borrow billions of pounds in order to renationalise all these services.
It's not being, although it is borrowing, it's borrowing to invest, so the money will come back to pay it off.
Yes, but that's a gamble.
Our manifesto has been fully costed.
Yes, you say it's been costed. However, the experts have had a look at it and said it's not cost effective. The figures don't add up.
A lot of experts have actually backed it already.
Okay, so let's just get this straight. He says he's going to renationalise.
It depends on which experts you look at, because some have backed it and some haven't.
Yeah, but he says that he's going to renationalise water, energy, the rail services, for example. You do realise that in order for those plans to work, you've got to be guaranteed that you're going to make money from them in order to pay back the loans. Don't you agree that it's going to take years to pay off these loans? You've got to buy out all those private companies, and then you've got to borrow loads of money to invest in these services. So it would
Right.
take
Most of our
decades to pay these off.
most of our railways are actually nationalised, but owned by other nations, and we want to bring them back into British ownership. You look confused. What I mean is
Hello, we're frozen.
a lot of the companies, the majority shareholders are other nations' governments.
Well, you say that, but honestly, you can understand that renationalising all these services, not only when you renationalise them, technically the government is responsible for each and every one of them. So they need to make sure that they run effectively. And if something goes wrong, the government has to pay in order to fix it. So I get that you say they'll make money. However, won't all of these renationalised services, they're just going to put more strain on the government to maintain these services. So you're
Look at
not going
other
to see the
countries.
increase in your money.
Look at other countries that have nationalised railways, and then look at ours. Ours is a shambles compared to theirs.
Can
Yeah,
I
but
just butt in? Jordan, can you just explain to me the statement you made about part of the rail system being owned by foreign companies? Can you just explain that to me?
A lot of the companies that run the railways, their majority shareholders are actually companies that are owned by other countries' governments.
Okay. So what? Who is the largest owner of the rail network at the moment then?
Not necessarily the rail network, the actual railway lines are owned by Network Rail.
You mean such
It's the
as
trains
like
themselves. It's the
first?
companies
You
that
mean
run
such
the
as
trains
Greater
themselves.
Northern First and all that?
Yeah, a lot of their shareholders are involved in other countries' governments.
Okay. So Tommy, as the point you were going to make.
well, honestly, you know,
Anyway,
I
I
get,
thought,
you know.
sorry to disrupt you, I thought we were going to be talking about the local politics.
We're talking
Well,
about.
yes, we can
We're
we
gonna get
can talk
round to
about
everything,
we
but
can talk about local issues. However, you've said
Because
that
we're in a... Oh, bear with me 2 seconds, sorry.
we need to. I need. We
you've
need.
said that local issues are important. Yes. The rail service, especially Northwest Norfolk, is a very crucial issue because a lot of people say that it doesn't run effectively enough. Now,
Oh, no, it is a nightmare. Honestly, you feel like you're going to derail between Kings Lynn and Ely.
well,
I've, I've been on it a few times recently, and it just doesn't feel safe.
well, honestly, yes, I understand you
It's up
say
to
it
the
not feel
imagination.
safe. However, they have tons of health and safety experts who review those rails regularly. So,
No, I just
it's
mean because
probably
it
safe.
feels so bumpy.
Can we
It feels like you're going to derail.
we're gonna run out of time if we keep going on this one. Tommy, can you fast forward on to the next topic you're going to talk about? Then we can talk about some local issues that you wish to. And that is the biggest issue of the election. If you want to go into that just a little bit for me.
Right. Okay. Last national issue. Take about 5 minutes, and then we'll talk about some local issues,
Okay.
which I know.
Oh God, I know where this is going.
Well, yeah, of course. It's the biggest issue of this election.
Yes. Honestly, been
It
watching the
shouldn't
debates.
be it shouldn't be the biggest issue, but
You're
it is.
right. You're right. It shouldn't be.
It,
We
I
should have.
think
It should have been done
personally,
and
I think the
dusted.
NHS and climate change should be bigger.
yes, you say that, but enough. The NHS and climate change haven't deadlocked our parliament yet, whereas Brexit has very much deadlocked our parliament.
It's
Now, Jeremy
deadlocked
Corbyn
politics
has
in
said
general.
that he will remain neutral in a referendum. How can you have someone that governs that has so little conviction that they can't even make up their mind on whether they would support Remain or leave?
What he is doing is trying not to influence vote because he thinks, yeah, that if he says right on one way or the other, it's gonna practically push people to think right, we should be voting with him. He wants people to make their own minds up and it to be purely based on facts, not based on which politicians say where they're gonna go.
But then
Yeah, but
why should someone vote for him if they don't know? Why if they don't know the position of the party? Why would they vote for him? Let's say like someone's a keen Brexiteer. Why would they vote for
He's
Jeremy
going,
Corbyn when they don't know?
he's going to allow his MPs to make up their own minds which
Exactly.
way they'd want. based
So-
on
the
how
MPs can make their own mind up. What about the people? How do they know which way to go if they are a keen supporter of Brexit, yet the majority of
Because
Labour
the fact-
MPs are pro-Remain? Where do
the
people go?
facts will be- when he comes back with his deal, which he has been getting ready in the background, just in case for years, which is pretty much already sorted out, he will put it out there
But-
for the public to view.
And what is this deal?
I've not seen it myself, so
So
Yeah, but you say that. So who would, what level would they remain neutral? Would it be the entire government remain neutral, or just him as prime minister?
I think
'Cause-
it would just be him because he feels that that's the way a leader should be on an issue like this. People should be able to make their own mind.
So basically, let's say if Jeremy Corbyn got elected,
So
and
what-
he had no. Just listen to me
okay,
one second.
let Tommy make his
If
point,
Jeremy
then you
if
respond.
Jeremy Corbyn got elected, and they had this referendum, and he remained neutral, and senior Labour cabinet ministers such as Emily Thornberry, John McDonnell supported Remain, and if the vote was for Leave, would their positions still be tenable, even though they've supported the losing side?
What you mean? Their positions in government?
Well, what I'm saying is, if Emily Thornberry supported Remain, and she's already stated that she would support Remain, if the vote is for Leave, would she still be able to remain in cabinet despite her trying to get the country to remain? We know this caused an issue for David Cameron and many cabinet ministers back in 2016. So even if Corbyn's remaining neutral, if
I
the majority of the
think that
government
as
isn't
long-
remaining neutral, then how can he remain neutral?
As long as the vote is legally binding and acted on, then it shouldn't actually affect how they act in the run up to it, as long as they go with it afterwards.
So the 2016 referendum scrapped that because it weren't legally
It
binding.
was only an advisory referendum.
Oh,
I'm
Whatever
sorry.
government was in at the time never had to actually act on it.
Yes, advisory in finding out what the majority of this nation wanted,
and it was
52%
promised
for Leave.
by all leaders that it would be respected. Even Jeremy Corbyn and even all the Remain MPs said that it has to be respected. No second referendums. Why are we in a position now where we're changed?
Because there is that deadlock, they want to let the public decide.
But the public can
But the
decide
public
in this
haven't
general election.
decided. The only people's minds who have changed is the MPs,
Yes.
because the MPs have decided
Actually,
that they can't cope with leaving.
Quite a lot of people have changed their minds now.
Such as what types of people have changed their minds?
People I've spoke to on the street and stuff have changed both ways. Some now want to remain that wanted to go, and some now want to go that wanted to remain. So there could be quite a swing one way or the other.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
what you need to understand is for the past years, in any sort of vote, what's come through is parties, the parties that have led all elections, from European, local, all the way to the 2017 election, even the 2016 referendum, has been pro-Remain. And do you accept, regardless of what side you're on, people are very angry at politics from both sides? Do you accept that?
Of course, I mean, we're all getting a bit with
Yeah.
politics at times. But for those that truly stand for what they believe in, they will still fight for what they believe in.
That is true, yes, I do agree with that.
Except Jeremy Corbyn is remaining neutral on the issue there.
That's because he doesn't want to end up being too much of an influence, making people feel they have to vote with if he was.
But do you know, but Jordan,
He
So
hopes he will
so
be
what you say? He doesn't want to lose his. He doesn't want the referendum to make him lose his job like David Cameron did. That's basically what Corbyn's trying
but
to avoid.
can I just interject this? There's good I was saying, when you try to please everybody, you please nobody.
Yeah, that's what.
How
Theresa
do you
May
feel about that?
found
That's
difficult.
Well, he's essentially trying to please nobody by not saying anything on it and letting people make their own mind.
and when you please nobody, people won't want to vote for you. That's
Which, oddly enough,
Theresa May had the same problem.
by
That's why
not
she lost the
doing
majority.
anything, chances are, by not actually doing anything, he will actually give. It'll actually mean that people will go to the facts more, not just listen to what their leader is saying.
Well, actually, if
Okay.
you want to talk about what their
David,
leaders
David
said,
Cameron should.
in
David Cameron should remain
in the
neutral
last
himself.
referendum, it didn't look like the majority took influence of what the party leaders were saying anyway, because they were pretty much all Remain. So did people not make up their mind then? Because David Cameron was Remain, Jeremy Corbyn was Remain. So did they not make up their mind?
What I believe is that David Cameron should have stayed neutral himself, because he's supposed to be he's supposed to be relatively neutral, and he meant to go with what his party's saying. Because his party was split, then he shouldn't have gone one way or the other.
Yes, but we can talk about, because David Cameron did know that. We can't change history. David Cameron did side with Remain, but honestly, if Corbyn is going to remain neutral, then that's up to him. I personally, I don't see, if he's neutral but his cabinet isn't neutral, I don't see how that works unless you have 50% of his cabinet are Brexiteers and 50% of his cabinet are Remainers, because then that's a fully neutral.
What it will do is give MPs the chance to campaign either how they feel close to their hearts or how their constituency voted. So say like Clive
Yeah,
Lewis.
but that's not really
Clive
worked, has it?
Clive Lewis would probably campaign heavily to Remain because he's a heavily Remain constituency.
But what about all them MPs on the Labour side who represent large Leave areas, such as Yvette Cooper,
example,
one of the biggest vote Leave areas, and Yvette Cooper wanted to essentially cancel Brexit. How do you think them voters are going to react to that when they vote in a big majority for Leave?
If
the Labour members of those constituencies voted to leave,
it's not the members; it's the entire constituency as a whole. I'm talking about.
If it's a Labour strong constituency and the members voted to leave, then they could always have a vote of no confidence in the sitting
It's
MP.
not about the members though; it's about the populace as a whole.
It's not just the Labour membership; it is the entire constituency's population voted to leave. Ed Miliband's seat, 70% in his constituency of Doncaster North voted to leave, and yet he has tried to stop Brexit at every turn. So how is that being representative of what your constituents voted for?
It's not, and that's why we need that second vote to make it legally binding, so they can't try to stop it. It has to be a legally binding vote and not just an advisory referendum.
So you're saying that if it voted Leave, you'd all just accept. If it was, let's just say there was another referendum and Leave won, you'd all just accept.
It wouldn't be a referendum; it'd be a vote.
Okay,
right.
But
if we had the vote, not a referendum.
That is the big difference.
So you just accept it. You'd have to accept it. You'd just accept it.
Yes.
Then how come in 2017 all parties, Conservative and Labours, they all stood on manifestos to leave the EU and no second referendums? They were elected on that promise. Why is it different now? Why do they have to change it? They were elected on the promise to implement the result either way. Why do we need to have a second referendum when we've had a first referendum? We've had a 2017 general election.
Technically,
we had an EU election.
You could call it a second referendum when we joined the EU.
A second referendum when we joined the EU.
The 2016 one, you could call a second referendum on the 1977 one.
Yes, but
that's not 2 years. But the 1975 referendum was implemented. The 1975 one was implemented, though. If you want, it's one thing to say, yes, we want to have another vote on this, but once you've implemented the first result, that's what you want.
Guys, we said 5 minutes on Brexit.
Yes, but the position's not clear, though, is it?
Okay, let's get on.
Okay, can I just want to interject one thing. Okay, Brexit. Yeah, blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. Okay,
I
we'll
want
move
to
on.
guarantee that we get some time in on the local area, and not just
We're,
national.
we're moving. Can I just say one thing? How do you feel? Just get an opinion. How do you feel with the performance of Labour in this election when, at the moment, Conservatives currently have a 10-point lead in the polls, which is much larger than it was in 2017?
The polls are completely. Let's be honest. The polls are unreliable. Some polls are putting Labour like literally a point or two ahead, and some are putting Tories way ahead. And they're all
No,
saying
but on
that
average, I'm looking at the average picture of all the polls added up and average, guys. If we want to look at individual polls, we can, but
they're
as
saying
a
that we're more.
average,
They're saying that we're more likely now to get a hung parliament
Well,
because the polls, you have to take in the room for error,
you're
and
right.
that brings it a
There
lot,
is always room for errors in polls, but
and that
there is a
brings a
much
lot
larger
higher
gap than there ever has been. There is a much larger gap between the polls. Of course, polls can have lots of errors in them, but when there is quite a large margin, don't forget last 2017 election, the polls were very very close with each other. How come this year?
Who actually gets polled for these things?
Well, this is talking about the average as a whole.
they go to a lot of marginal seats, and they ask people there. But quite frankly, I think you're both right. I think
I don't really trust the polls.
Can
I
we
don't
just
feel
let
they
Tommy
cover
finish his
enough
point?
people.
well, this is the last I'm going to say. Then we'll get on to some local issues. I mean, yes, you're right. Polls, who knows? In 2015, the polls underestimated the Conservative vote. It said predicted hung Parliament, Conservatives got a majority. At the 2017 election, both parties were predicted to get about 40% of the vote, and they did, and it caused a hung Parliament. This is predicting Conservatives are in the lead at the moment. However, let's face it, we won't know until Thursday, early Friday morning, and I'm sure
that is true. That is true.
I'm sure when that's happened, we can all kind of criticize one another or say fair enough. You know, the results are in.
Some 3 million young people, 2 million of them being under 25, have registered to vote, and a lot of those won't have been polled. So that could completely change the results.
That is true.
And
Okay.
yes, you're very right.
Okay. I think we will move on. Just one last thing I'm going to say. If the polls are to show a true picture, when there is such a large gap, 10 points may not seem a lot, but it can be a lot, especially compared to last year. That is the territory where you get around where it can create essentially a landslide. Well, not like a major landslide, but when there's that big gap, that's room where Conservatives could potentially win a lot of seats when it's that big. But anyway, as you said about the polls, we can argue all day about that. That's just potential if they're true. So you want to move on to your next thing?
Yeah, some local issues. I have to ask Jordan, because you've been heavily involved in Labour's campaign in this constituency, and I actually have the Conservative leaflet.
I've got 2 of them in the house, and I think one of them sitting right behind me.
So,
yes.
What are Labour promising for this constituency?
Where's Tommy's leaflet?
Promises.
Where's Tommy's leaflet?
It's right
No,
there.
where's Tommy's Labour?
Matthew, as I said, unfortunately, we can't get to every household.
Yes, but Heacham's the largest village in northwest Norfolk.
Something has gone horrifically wrong with the postal leaflets, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because most people haven't received anything yet.
No, to be fair, I think Jordan Stokes. I think Jordan probably wrote by my name on the address line up the leaflets. He probably wrote waste of paper, waste of leaflets sending to this guy.
No. The Royal Mail.
Blame the Royal Mail.
Send out a leaflet on behalf of each party to every household.
Do you not have people in Heacham?
And a lot of people don't seem to have received anything yet, or have received only one party at best for some reason.
Do you not have people?
But anyway, as I was saying, Jordan, broadly, what is Northwest Norfolk Labour's campaign? I mean, what are they promising? What you said Brexit's not the most important issue. Locally, what are you promising?
A local candidate who actually cares about the area, lives in the area, and will be fully accountable as a result of that. who uses the same services as you and I, who travels the same routes as we do, same public transport, and has grown up in northwest Norfolk, went to school here, works here, and lives here, and children went to school here.
Right, that's some pretty.
Whilst the Conservative candidate lives in London.
You say he lives in London, however, he was born in Norfolk and did grow up in Norfolk. He's at Westminster at the moment because that's where he's employed. He's got a job
lived
there.
in London. He's lived in London a long number of years before that. He left Norfolk basically as soon as he could.
Yes, but he's promised that if elected to Northwest Norfolk, seemingly he's decided to take on a lot of the local issues. He said that he would put this constituency at the heart of his career as a politician. So honestly, I get that Joe. Your Labour candidate has grown up here and lives here and been here.
Okay,
However, you can say that your policies is. I asked you what your policies were.
Can I just interrupt?
Do you think most people will care if she lives here? But what is she actually promising?
Can I just interrupt you two quickly? Instead of like catchphrases and slogans and why this, can we just talk about what are you actually going to do? What are you actually going to bring to the area? I'm going to let you both say. Have you say.
Anyway, I'm just going to finish with Tommy's previous point. Just point out something. We've actually had people say they voted for Bellingham for the last 30 plus years, and now they're going to vote for Jo as she's a well-known name in the area, and people around here like what they know.
That can be true.
There are people that are put off by the new Tory candidate because he's not local.
Yeah, and I do admit that
we are seeing a lot of this.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that someone who has spent the majority of their life here. That's why some people say Sir Henry won so strongly because he had been here for years. He was very well known. You've got to forget he was an MP.
That is a big part of it, and that's why Jo stands a very good chance this time, more than ever before.
What you've got to understand is that Henry Bellingham was an MP since like 1983. So it weren't even that he was a local man. He was a very established politician a very established local politician who had done a lot of stuff and was very well known. And yes, I'm not saying that Jo Rust is not well known in this constituency. She has done well. Whenever I look in the local paper, there's always something in there about Jo Rust. She's been doing something here and there. However, the Conservative James Wilde is promising a stronger NHS, sustainable housing, jobs and skills. Your entire campaign here seems to be run on she's local.
It's not just that she's local; it's the fact that she knows what the real issues are.
Can we just skip to the actual policies, not just why you two think because he's this and that? How about what? Not why. What are you gonna do? Can we just skip to that? Because we haven't got too much time.
I'm gonna have. Although, as much as I want to say when she gets in, so if I accidentally say when she gets in, bear with me. But if she gets in, she wants to focus not only on the A47, but to make sure other key roads, such as the Coast Road, the A10, the A17 up to where it joins Lincolnshire, all get improvement.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah.
She wants to guarantee that we manage to keep and retain services at the hospital to ensure better facilities for local patients.
Yes, and James Wilde has promised greater investment in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital as well. However, I have to pick out one of his policies as actually won me over, and probably won over quite a lot of people. He stated that he would campaign for faster broadband in this area, and especially for people like me, that's a very important issue. Increasing broadband. A lot of people who work from home here really would like increased broadband and internet services. So that's a policy which makes a lot of sense.
It's something which Labour has already said they're going to work on. He's literally just taking our national policy.
Okay, yeah, but they said they were going to nationalise the broadband.
Jordan,
services,
can I just check the technical point?
They were going to partially nationalise it.
Can I just interject? broadband is a very loose term. Let's say conservatives promise high-speed fiber broadband.
We're talking about fibre optic broadband here.
Broadband as a general term can mean a lot of different things. Okay, they've said free broadband, not fiber optic broadband. It's just broadband. The actual definition of broadband is something like 200 kilobits per second. So you got to be careful with the level of investment as well. Anyway, I'll let you. Because I'm a technical person, I like to interject some technical
No,
terms.
you're fine. You're fine,
There we
Matthew.
are.
Thanks for the input.
No, a lot of people, and you say yes, Labour have said they're going to
Yeah,
partially nationalise the internet, but quite frankly, I'm with Sky. I'm very happy with Sky. So why would I want it to be nationalised a bit? Well, how would that benefit me?
Anyway, Jordan, do you want to quickly respond to that?
What it will do is it will allow there to be a basic service that anyone can access, and then obviously people can pay for more if they want more.
So you're saying the internet should be
Basic.
for free, technically. Everyone should
internet-
have a basic internet service.
The internet is now classed, technically, by the United Nations as a human right for some reason. So we should strive to provide it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we shouldn't strive to provide internet. However, there are some things which are more important than the internet.
Oh, I agree. It's going to be one of the things that has to be done further down the line, but it is something that we do intend to do.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Thank you for clearing that up.
We're going to be almost out of time, so what I want you to do is sort of let you two have like just a final like closing thing you just want to leave with the viewers. So
wow, this is like a proper debate.
So I just want to just a message you want to leave. I'll give you about quick 30 seconds about why you think such and such. So
can I just say, when I'm Prime Minister, we'll just remember this. This is where political history was made. This is where it was made.
So I'm going to go with Jordan first. Can you just go with a closing statement?
Okay, I've got a question for you, Tommy. If you could have something passed Intel or tomorrow, no matter what it is, one thing, what would it be?
That's not a close. That's a question.
It doesn't have to be something serious necessarily. It could just be something that you particularly would like.
Something I would particularly like. Well, apart from Brexit being over and done with, I would actually, I would increase because I'm a bit of a history buff. I'd increase the level of national heritage things that we have at the moment. I'd put more I'd put more natural conservations in place. Put more natural areas in place. Because I'm not as massive on climate change as you. However, I'd like to protect the heritage we got. We got good heritage in Britain, and I think we should protect it. I'd say I'd do that. What about you?
Don't take this one seriously. This is just a bit of a fun one based on campaigning.
Okay, well, Labour's entire campaign is a bit of fun.
Everybody would have external letterboxes.
Right.
Okay.
Some of those post boxes can be quite nasty if they catch your fingers.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be quite impressive actually if I had an external letterbox. Make me feel important.
Okay. We are.
No, you know those little ones that you have on the wall next to your front door.
Yeah, you're talking to a former leaflet distributor, so I know how hard putting leaflets through doors are, especially when the owners don't want them.
We always use spatulas to protect our fingers, and that's always a bit of a fun conversation as to why we're holding a spatula.
Okay,
I think we should enforce it the American way. Just chuck them on the lawn.
Okay, we are running out of time now. We're not going to do like massive statements. Can you just in like just a few words just summarize why you should vote Labour? Just in a few words, not like nothing. Don't go on a massive rant, both of you. So Jordan, can you just like close like Labour's like campaign for us just now to us in a few words?
I'd encourage people to vote Labour to get a candidate who truly cares about the area, has always cared about it for I don't know how many years now, let's be honest. And because we can do better than we have done under the last free government.
Okay, Tommy, have you got something, a final thing you would like to say before?
Well, I would say vote for the Conservative candidate for North West Norfolk, James Wyle, because he's already signed a document saying that he would support getting Brexit done at every rate. He's already stated that he would put more money into the National Health Service as well as education, and also he's promising sustainable development, which will protect our environment and national heritage centres around this area.
Okay, Tommy, thank you. Jordan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
It's been nice to do something different and have an actual debate.
Yes, it's been quite nice.
Yeah,
been quite nice.
It's put the debate in contemplating debating is what we call our show.
And we didn't have to get to the point of pistols at dawn.
No.
No, we'll save that for after the election.
Yeah, we'll save that for the 13th.
Yeah, save that for the 13th. Yeah.
Well, Jordan, thank you for joining us. It's been good to have you on and to have a different view and to have a different viewpoint to interject and try and tame Tommy somehow.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah. Well, Jordan.
No, not yet.
Well, Jordan, thank you very much, and we'll see. Come Thursday, come Friday. If our debate about the polls is true, we'll see about that on Friday, and just to see really where the country's going, which who knows.
Can I just say, I do, even though I don't want Labour to win in this area, I do wish Jordan well. I think he's worked really hard.
Same goes for you with the Tories. I wish you well, but I don't want them to get in.
Same here, but I think you've worked hard on this campaign. It should be looked at that you have worked hard, and you obviously are passionate about what you believe in, and you know even though I don't agree with you, you can't ignore that you've got passion for what you believe in.
Well said. I couldn't have put it better myself.
Right. With that said, though, thank you, Jordan, and
thank you.
Right, and
good night.
This is where we're going to leave. Good night. Yes. Right, so we're just going to get Tommy back on the line. Haha. Right, hello everybody. We're back on me and Tommy. We're going to wrap this up. Tommy, turn your camera on.
Oh, right. Sorry, people. I'm back. I'm on. That was an interesting discussion, and I've just had a message from Jordan saying, "Thanks, guys. Can I get a link?" So we'll have to.
Yeah,
we will send you a link.
We'll sort it out soon. We'll sort them out soon. So, how do you feel that went?
I enjoyed it. Honestly, I don't agree with Jordan. He probably don't agree with me. However, it was nice to have a discussion with someone from this is what TPN should be about. It should be about discussing about people with different viewpoints. And honestly, I hope we can do another debate with Jordan at some point, because I think that one went really very constructive.
Yes. So we've been on the air now for just over an hour now.
Oh God. Pretty long, but all good things must come to an end. I've got to go to bed. I've got work in the morning.
Yep. This is where we're going to end tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed Tommy being, well, seeing just what Tommy really is when he gets into a debate, which is, I don't know how to describe you, but it's good to watch. That's for sure.
No, thanks for having me. It's been really nice being here today.
So this is going to be probably the final TPN podcast before the election, unless we can squeeze one in, but I've got 2 exams this week, but there we are.
No. And for those of you watching the debate or watching the election night on Thursday, I'll be watching it as well with a big tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream right in front of me.
And I'll be revising.
Oh well, we can't all be as great as us.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.